Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and we have more information and pretty much the full specs of the Xbox Series X. Microsoft has released more of those specs of the Xbox Series X, and this is actually some sort of good news and something I'd rather talk about than what's been in the news for the last couple days. But let's just roll through all the specs here, and I will post a blog post in the description below so that you guys can go and look at it along as well. But there's going to be 8 cores at 3.8 gigahertz, and these are Zen 2 CPU cores, or 3.6 gigahertz with SMT. So you can, as a developer, it seems like you can decide if you want just 3.8 gigahertz single core speed or drop that down about 200 megahertz to get a full 16 threads. Now, not full, because some of that is reserved for the OS and background tasks that the Xbox is going to do. But the really exciting news that I like is the CPU is nice. It's going to provide us a new baseline of where gamings are going to fall back to. But the big thing is the GPU. The 12 teraflops, 52 compute units at 1.825 gigahertz. It's a custom RDNA 2 GPU. And this is the exciting part, right? So there's been speculations out there, 56 CU, and it may be a 56 CU just bin for 52. So if you have a defect on something, you can still be able to use that chip. But the 52 CUs, this is more than the RX 5700 right now. Now the RX 5700 is not on RDNA 2, but it's RDNA 1. So this is going to be much faster than the current best card or current newest card, I should say, newest high-end card out there, which is the RX 5700. And this is going to be quite impressive where graphics are going to go later on in this dev cycle for consoles and PC games, right? A lot of games are designed for console too, so you got to have some baseline that you're going to be going towards or working at, and they put a lot of effort into these console titles to make sure that they work. It seems like a lot of the PC releases are buggier than the console ones, and so as a PC gamer you get to deal with a few more bugs, and that's why I don't always buy games on the first day, because I get frustrated when I want to sit down and play a game and I run into a bug. But I really like that this is really kind of seeming setting the way of here's what's going to be coming, here's what to expect. They set out there to have a performance target of 4K 60 up to 128 frames per second, so you might even have some variable. I mean, they've been talking a lot with HDMI 2.1. I am really excited. I really hope developers take advantage of this and really get some really good games out there, especially for the console. Not only that, what they can achieve on games, because eventually this GPU looks really good for a console right now, but the desktop side, I'm pretty sure they're going to have even better ones. So let's see what is all capable of, and hopefully that they can really expand on what they're getting and really work hard at it. Now, the die size of this I'm actually really impressed at how small it is. It's only 360 millimeters squared, so 360.45 millimeters squared, which is, I was thinking it was going to be like 400 to 500 millimeter range for this die, and that's with the CPU and GPU on it, with everything that was rumored to have. But with a 7 nanometer process and what they've been able to do, they have 8 cores of Zen 2 plus a 12 teraflop RDNA 2 GPU, and all those improvements fit in a 360 millimeters squared. That's really impressive. I almost would like to just see one in person, just to be like, wow, there's all that compute power in there. And it's only going to get better as years to come, right? These compute processes get better, or these manufacturing processes get better. It's going to be really fun to watch. But this is a 7 nanometer enhanced process, 16 gigs of GDDR6 memory with 320-bit bus. So quite a bit of memory, a step up. I believe the Xbox One X has 12. Less than my desktop, of course, but it doesn't have to do everything my desktop has to do. And when you jump into it, the memory bandwidth, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So there's going to be 10 gigabytes of memory bandwidth at 560 gigabits per second. Gigabit bytes per... Blah. 560 gigabytes per second. And so that's going to be just basically dedicated for your missed games. And there's not really too many cards out today with more than 10 gigs. So this should be really good, future proofing it out for quite a few years. And then you got in there, especially for the 4K content, if you get more in. But you can also use another. So I was listening to some of the Austin Evans and the Digital Foundry videos, which has some more information in it, because they split out 6 gigs at 336 gigabits per second. And this 6 gigs is actually split up between 3.5 that can be used for games, so that the game devs can actually use that, and then 2.5 that's just for the console, OS, etc. On the background. The really nice thing about this console is that I hope really helps improve games load times, not just from the aspect of, hey, the game loads faster when I start it up, or the game loads scene to scene faster, but maybe just streaming a lot of stuff in so you don't have to sit there with any load screens. And that this gets moved over to the desktop side of things, and how games are also playing on desktop is the 1 terabyte custom NVMe SSD. That is finally here. We finally get an SSD in the Xbox, and the PS4 will obviously have one as well, kind of leaving the spinning rust behind, and we will no longer have spinny drives slowing us down. The I/O throughput, they kind of put this in there, is 2.4 gigabytes per second and 4.8 gigabytes per second compressed. So the raw is a little bit slower than the compressed. So they're going to probably, as they say here, custom hardware and decompression blocks. They're just trying to really kind of figure out a way to get this drive faster and be able to do more throughput on it. Expandable. You can also get an expandable drive, so that little slot in the background that everyone's trying to figure out, everything from a dev port, is just another SSD slot. So you can have up to 2 terabytes. I'm sure that these are not going to be just pennies. They're going to be very pretty penny when they first come out, but hopefully over time, maybe they're like 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes. You can take those drives, put them in another console, pick up where you left off. Really kind of cool. Microsoft's putting a lot of effort into that expandable storage, because 1 terabyte is not going to be enough with the way games are going today. If you have games 150 gigs, you ain't getting 10 games on that console. So yeah, thank you Microsoft for that. Let's hope that it works as well as everything is out there to be. And there's going to be external storage, so USB 3.2, external HDD support on there, a 4K UHD Blu-ray player, so you can still play all your 4K Blu-rays, and their performance target, like I mentioned, was 4K 60 and up to 120 frames per second. And looking at this, they talked a lot about ray tracing on, ray tracing off. Seems to be a lot of effort going into making sure that the ray tracing is working the way Microsoft wants it to work. And this could be good news for AMD and their RDNA 2 cards. We still have to wait and see how ray tracing then, from this iteration of what Microsoft's implementing, that API, of how well it's going to work on the current GeForce cards. I was getting a little worried when Microsoft comes out with their first generation RTX stuff, or first generation anything, and it's still in flux, especially with an API, and how it can change over time to better adapt to what developers need and what Microsoft really wants to get out of it, and efficiency. So we'll see of how much that stuff maps back. Other than that, I do believe that AMD and NVIDIA now going forward are going to have the rights DXR implementation going forward for the PC side of games. We'll see what Sony has to do. I mean, there's still some low-level stuff that you can do on these cards because they have support for it. It's just going to be interesting to see how the consoles compare with each other. Some of the images they have here are really impressive, with the Xbox One X to the Series X of Gears 5. A little bit better illumination in that Series X. Overall, I kind of like the ray tracing bit a little bit more, so it smooths out a lot of things. I'm impressed by it. And if they are able to still run this at 60 frames per second and 4K, that would be really something that I would be appreciative of, because I don't like sacrificing frame rates, experience of the game just for ray tracing. Me, I like to have those higher frame rates. I can tell when they slow down, but I also like to have that higher quality, which it seems like that they're also going to have with the 4K stuff. I don't want to turn down resolution and then just to and turn down frames per second just to get ray tracing in there. And I think we might be getting to the point where they're starting to figure it out. Now, this is going to be a first generation ray tracing card for AMD, but they have been working with Microsoft on it, so I think that they're gonna kind of hit the stride running a little bit here, especially for a console where they're gonna need to make it work, because the refresh cycle on these is years, not every year or 18 months. So there's going to be a much longer sequence in here that they need to make sure that they hit that as well. And they were talking about improving immersion, just the latency input, making sure that latency pipeline is much faster. HDMI 2.1, they're really talking about HDMI 2.1. It's like I'm going to have to upgrade my TV just to be able to test out HDMI 2.1. My TV is only a 49-inch poor, LG TV from, gosh, it must be like 2-3 years old now. So, yeah, if I want the latest 2.1, the dynamic latency input, all that fun stuff, it's a new TV for me. But hopefully somebody out there, because I'm probably not going to get a new TV right away, will be able to test this out to see how it operates. But a lot of this stuff, hopefully they're also implementing and bringing it to the PC side of things so that latency pipeline is improved. I think they're not only learning a lot here with the console, but learning a lot with their cloud stuff on how to improve latencies. And even if they improve latency, let's say on the cloud, I think that they're also going to be able to improve latencies in your own desktop so that they can even have a better gaming experience, lower latencies as well. They really showed off the quick resume tech, which I really like, being able to jump into games quickly. They're basically, saving games in these, I think in Austin Envin's video, I think in both, they're just talking about VMs. In the article, they talk about the quick resume technologies and showing that off. But just saving the state of each game as you switch them, and you can go from game to game to game to game, as and they just load pretty fast overall. And none of these games are even optimized for the new console yet. They're just coming out. So get ready for that whole, get your games faster. Now, if they can mimic the desktop to do that same thing, so you can jump from game to game to game, because there's some days where I like to play 2-3 different games in a gaming session, just be able to go through and just go game to game if I have that time. Now, granted, I got multiple kids, so I don't have as much one stretch gaming time as I used to have, but I would like to see that, just because it's nice to have, right? To be able to go, I want to play this game, but then maybe somebody comes over, jump to this one, or I'm feeling like I want to play a shooting game, and then I want to do maybe a racing game later. In that hour or two that I have the game. That's what I like to see, is being able to do that, because then I'm playing the game more and I'm not waiting on things, because nobody likes to wait on a game loading screen. We've done that for most of our lives, and hopefully one day we will not have to do that anymore. That's the goal. And they talked about compatibility in this blog post. Compatibility is key. Content is king, right? You have good content, you have a good console, and you have the longevity of that gaming library, which is your content. It is going to be fun and immersive. Now, Xbox has really been pushing, Xbox and Microsoft as a whole, hey, you can game anywhere on your PC or your console. So it's going to come down to where you want to play this. I still see a console as another device in a different gaming scenario. So when I want to game on a sofa, I'm going to go to the console and play it there. I'm not going to necessarily bring my PC there. If I want to game on a PC and sit at a desk or stand at a desk in my case, I'll do it there. If I'm even thinking about, if I game up in my bedroom right now, it's actually with a controller on a PC that I usually stream from, because it's just a 3400G. Yeah, it can play games, but I can still stream it on my network. Even though it's dying, I can still stream it, and it gets very good content. So with everything Microsoft says, they got a lot more in this blog post, but the big thing I wanted to focus on, and I took time with, was the specs. And if I can get back up here to them, just everything they're doing in that small form factor, the 8 cores, the 12 teraflops, the 52 CUs, they're really trying to not skimp out, and they're bringing you the best part of gaming that they can in. And we'll determine the price. The price is really going to see how this console sells, I think. And in my opinion, if they hit the price right, this is going to be something that people are going to look at and really going to jump the evolutionary of gaming going forward, with the developers focusing on something that can give that 4K 60 and hopefully start bringing more 4K 60 stuff mainstream, and the hardware there to support it, right? We have some hardware out there now, but it's really expensive to get access to that hardware. And this is a case where if you want to get your AAA titles and everything else, and they want to push the envelope, ray tracing, hopefully, and all that stuff at 4K 60, you're going to be able to do it, and you're going to be able to have it on your desktop, which are going to be some great accomplishments here, not just from what AMD is doing, but Microsoft, and then we'll see what NVIDIA and even Intel is coming out with, that we'll be able to have choices again in the gaming industry and be able to see the progressing forward of getting that 4K. I like 4K a lot, so that's why I like to focus on it. But getting that 4K monitor that can really suit everyone's needs, and getting that out to consumers, because I think that's the exciting part, is getting this gaming stuff going. So let me know what your thoughts are on this console. I thought it was a little interesting with how they split the RAM, but I'm excited about the SSD. Finally, the hard drive is just one thing I don't like dealing with. But really, I think Microsoft did a great overall job. I like them leaking, or not leaking, but putting out a lot of these specs, keeping interest out there, and especially right now where it's getting at least a little bit of information out there that's enjoyable instead of what's all in the news lately. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for helping this channel and helping it grow. I really appreciate it. You guys are great at helping out this channel. And until next time, I do want to say first, though, I am still looking at network equipment. If you have any suggestions about home network equipment, I'm not going with a lot of consumer stuff. The AI mesh from Asus is not cutting it anymore. I'm a little irritated about how it's just dying randomly, and I have to reboot the thing every other day. It's just an on and off button, but it gets annoying when you have to go and hit the on and off button every day. So if you guys got suggestions about that, I appreciate it. I did order wire and stuff. I'm waiting for a rack to get in stock again so I can order with that. A little wall mount network rack. Won't be right here, but it'll be up on the wall. As you see here, you might see I'm starting to clean up my walls and stuff and get the basement kind of back into getting where it looks good. So if you notice some stuff being scraped off, that's what's going on right now. So we'll run wire. I'm looking at Ubiquity stuff and the network stuff. So if you got any tips or hints, just lay it out there. I'm more than willing to look up more stuff. I haven't done a lot of networking stuff in a long time. I've been more developing lately. But if you got any tips, I'm here and I'm listening. I will read those comments, and you can even reach out to me through email if you want. Email's on the YouTube page, and we can have a conversation there. I appreciate it very much, because I want this done right, and I don't want to spend an arm and a leg, but I want good wireless throughout the house. I want good access throughout the house, good Ethernet. So a lot of ports will be put in so I can have access all the time. So with that, I want to say God bless, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.